The role of lawfare in the Ukraine conflict and legal analysis of Russia's special military operation. That's you.
Yeah, very good morning, everyone. And I hope all of you are doing really well. And I'm really glad to be part of this conference. So, firstly, before I start my presentation, I would like to thank Professor Stoddart and Professor Kaunert from Swansea University and the University of South Wales, respectively, for organizing this timely event and encouraging the study of hybrid threats. So, to introduce myself, I'm Arpan Chakravarti from India, a legal scholar with research interests in national security and foreign affairs. And today I will be presenting on the issue of the role of lawfare in the Ukraine conflict, a legal analysis of Russia's special military operations. So, before we start, one of the most important questions that always come up or is coming up every now and then is that if lawfare qualities qualifies as a hybrid warfare, and as to what I do believe is that yes, and my understanding of hybrid warfare would include that a form of conflict that combines military tactics with unconventional methods such as information warfare, cyber attacks, propaganda, and political manipulation. I suppose that speaker ahead of me had already spoken in depth about Russia's cyber attacks and this. So my pure focus would be on the law aspect of it, and it involves a blend of traditional and non-traditional tactics to achieve strategic objectives. So which also leads to often blurring the lines between military and non-military activities, and even peace and war at some point of time. So for the better understanding, I believe that lawfare refers to a strategic use of legal mechanisms and concepts to achieve a military or political objective. It involves the leveraging of a legal system, international law, and public opinion to gain advantage on the battlefield or in diplomatic arena. And in the context of what I would say lawfare tactics, it would include filing of lawsuits or criminal charges against enemy combatants or leaders. It can also involve manipulating international legal frameworks, such as exploiting the loopholes or ambiguities in treaties or framework or conventions to justify or legitimize certain actions while accusing the adversaries of violating the international law, which is consistently seen in the Russian playbook for hybrid conflict. And one can definitely say in conclusion that lawfare is limited to legal action. It is often it is not limited to legal action. It is a combination of what I would call political, public relation campaigns, media manipulation to shape narratives and influence the public opinion, and using legal arguments and terminologies to sway the public perception in favor of one own cause or to discredit the adversary. So, as to what I have understood is that the elements of hybrid warfare would also include the usage of conventional warfare, irregular warfare under the threshold, keeping it under the threshold, irregular warfare, and masking them under and finding loopholes. So, therefore, I have divided the whole presentation into two parts in specific. The first part would specifically deal with the pre-2014 scenario and the post-2014 scenario to showcase that there has been a consistent involvement of lawfare in conflicts, and it is very important to look at it because it is one of the most important aspects to establishing legitimacy in any conflict. So lawfare, if you look at it, has been playing a critical role in the conflict through undefined situations, and it is also happening because there is a lack of clear definition of what the situation is. This ambiguity is consistently raising the questions whether whether the conflict between the Ukraine and the Russia is whether it falls under international armed conflict or whether it falls under international armed conflict or civil unrest, and leading to confusions regarding to which applicable legal framework would apply to it. And as a result, determining the legal responsibilities, demanding of accountability, and deciding on what appropriate action can be taken becomes very challenging in the course of hybrid warfare. And furthermore, I also do believe that the abuse of international law continues because there has always been a problem for compliance, as compliance mechanisms are lacking at a lot of times. And this issue highlights that the ongoing challenges in ensuring that how adherence to international legal standards can actually play a role. An example that we at this point of time see is the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, which was signed by Ukraine, by United States, Russia, and the UK. And it's specifically aimed in order to preserve the Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and existing borders, which while prohibiting the threat or the use of force against its territorial integrity. However, after the Russian annexation of 2014 and the subsequent occupation of the eastern side of Ukraine, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they specifically claimed in 2015 that we didn't fire any shots, and therefore the loss of Ukraine's territorial integrity resulted from a very complex internal process. And when we look into that, to this, there has been a lot of writings on specifically as to how development of this little green man has also come up, which is also one of the most important aspects of how hybrid warfare has been taking part. And Russia has achieved, so Russia at that point of time had achieved two main objectives that they wanted to. One was to avoid the violation of the memorandum, and in the eyes of international law, they didn't have any. In the eyes of law, they were very. They haven't violated any laws or treaties. And second was that because their soldiers did not wear any insignia or badge or anything like that, they were unidentified soldiers. So it also provided them with an option that if there is a failure in the operation, it would lead to plausible deniability in case of a failure. So through these aspects, we have been continuously seeing that how the Russian playbook has been evolving. And the fourth slide specifically talks about, this is the latest map that we have seen, is that hybrid warfare in particular, how we are seeing the characteristics of the Russian side is that it operates just below the reaction threshold, and it is strategically exploiting the legal criteria to avoid triggering a major or a strong political get back or a military response, or even something between the lines of what we read. For example, it's one of the most important examples that literally everyone has been talking about, is about the Article 5 of the NATO treaty, which considers an armed attack on one member is considered as an attack against all. The concept of this whole armed attack is still it is crucially been derived from the Article 51 of the UN Charter. And the hybrid warfare aims to remain right below the legal threshold of armed attack, and to stay under the threshold, it capitalizes on this particular legal fault lines or the gaps and the ambiguities, such as distinguishing between what can be called as intervention, what can be called as a use of force, what is armed attack, or different conflict scenarios that can be brought out. And in India, in Russia's case, what we have seen is that they have used the example, or they have used the statement of self-defense, which was being used by Russia. Well, I find it very hypocritical at the start, because the primary basis of what how the outline of Putin's speech for the Russian military action, it showcased. He used the word individual self-defense by Russia against United States and NATO. Well, agreed. I totally agree to that part. However, the text of Article 51 in specific, it talks about how that the state that there is no right to act in anticipation of any armed attack. The attack may be underway, only then that can be taken. So it's just like crossing a legal Rubicon, stating that NATO military operations have begun, and therefore Russia has begun the assault. And therefore, I do have come to realize that that the threshold and fault lines have already existed, but the hybrid warfare as to what in this particular scenario, it always exists, and countries have been exploiting them through and through in this, the strategic environment. So this now I will be specifically, so finally, when we investigate as to what happened in the post 2014 scenario, we also see that there has been, we observe that after the occupation of these particular territories, Russia had made it compulsory for those in the occupied states to acquire Russian passports. So as to what I remember, as per several million passports were being distributed in the regions, and this happened in Crimea as well in 2014, and now it is happening in the occupied region. So moreover, with Russia being a country with a veto power in the United Nations, it is effectively becoming more of a paralyzed system, and toothless as it gets, because everything, whichever any documents which come as a support against Russia will definitely veto it. So therefore, I strongly do believe that the Security Council structure, which has been designed, it was designed in an era of previous times, and it does not reflect what I would believe the rise of the new powers and the shifting geopolitical landscape at this point of time, the aspirations of nations which at this point of time are striving for a fairer and a better and even maybe a more equitable global order. I think this is a time to look into that. And moreover, I do believe that the loophole of the conflict in international humanitarian law also does lack, or that there is a lack of clarity in these aspects as well. So, and finally, I also believe that the challenges that we are facing at this point of time blurs the definition of what we would call as war and peace. Because keeping that in mind, we definitely see that hybrid warfare strategies are evolving every day, and countries are learning from each other. As to what I have seen, that the Russian playbook was also being implemented in the South China Sea as well. And in the similar way, when there was in the South China Sea before the arbitration went down. So, and still it is not been followed, surprisingly. So when we look into these aspects, when we are keeping that in mind, so hybrid warfare strategies may seek to exploit threshold and ambiguities, and therefore it is making it difficult to apply to what we at this point of time call the established legal norms and principles that come up. And this can definitely lead to confusion regarding as to what the application of international law can come, and the determination of legal responsibilities as to which nation is responsible for what, and if they go ahead, and basically, and the accountability of perpetrators will never come up to the case, as we have seen definitely in the case of in the ICC, where Putin has been, where there has been a case against Putin against the deportation of Ukrainian children, and Russia has decided not to participate in those judicial participation. So the intention, so what I have I've come to realize, and through this whole understanding of the conference of the hybrid warfare, is that there has been an international intentional use of legal mechanisms in per se, and the concepts of law are being used as a weapon. And I do believe that this can definitely erode the public trust in legal systems and the institutions which are governing it. And I can also impede, at this point of time, what we can look at is that we can impede efforts to seek justice and to ensure that accountability is required for any violation of international law if there is any. Thank you. So if anybody has any questions, you can connect with me on my personal email, and definitely get back. Or if they have any questions, I would definitely love to take them now.